Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Scrimshaw Show. My name's Evan Scrimshaw. Joining me on the pod, Nathaniel Arfin. You're back, buddy. How's it been?
I have been excellent, I guess, if I want to. It's been a time for me. I am thrilled to be back on talking about politics with you, and federal politics.
Yeah, it's been haven't been able to have you on the politics pod for 5-6 months now. You want to tell everybody what you've been doing the last few months?
Sure. Yeah. So up until Prime Minister Carney took office, I had been working with the Prime Minister's office on some special communications projects, basically making sure that the government was appraised to what has been going on in our information ecosystems across the internet.
You were the mis and disinfo point man.
Yeah, you could definitely put it that way. I was there for a short time. I was happy with the work that I was able to get done. I really enjoyed working with the Prime Minister's office and helping people hopefully identify some gaps in how we consume our media and how we think about some of the things we see and say online.
Well, I am happy that you are back to be on the podcast. I am hopeful that the Liberals win the selection for many reasons, but we'll see. We'll see what may happen in your future. If he disappears again from the podcast, that's why. But I have at least a theoretical window here. So you have spent more time this morning reading the conservative platform than I have, which is to say that I woke up, spent 40 minutes updating the model. Not that long, but just like getting the polling together for it and like responding to emails. So all I've seen is the bits that Tyler Meredith has been DMing me on Twitter. What's the sort of walk me through your takeaways from the platform? We're recording this Tuesday morning. It's going to come out Thursday morning. But talk me through what you've seen in the platform. It seems like the costings are like pretty entirely fake, but what are you seeing? What are you enjoying? Talk me through it, bud.
So I will lead in there. There are a few things in this platform that I do like. The investment tax credits, trying to reward clean manufacturing, clean production, oligopoly reviews, free trade bonuses. Like, there's a lot of stuff in here that is good policy, good government work. And then there's a lot of it that's complete and utter bullshit. For example, the entire Stop the Crime for a Change. We're talking about the 3 strikes you're out, life sentences for fentanyl, gun, and human trafficking, jail not bail, ending tent cities, stopping intimate partner violence. All of this stuff is illegal. So most of it was attempted in Stephen Harper's government, especially the 3 strikes you're out was a very, very prominent piece of legislation that the Stephen Harper government introduced, and it was completely turned down, denied by the Supreme Court of Canada, because effectively it puts the onus on the incarcerated to prove that they are no longer a danger to society by ruling them a dangerous offender simply by virtue of the fact that they've had 3 criminal offenses. It's simply not under Canadian law. Basically, all of these things are illegal. So it sets up this scenario where Pierre Poilievre is coming out and saying, I'm going to restrict Canadian rights. I'm going to do so in a way that is expensive because the justice system is not cheap. And then I'm going to ignore actually costing any of this on my platform. So there's actually, the costing is all over the place. They really just seem like they've made it up. So I'm not putting a lot of stock in it. And, the liberals did a lot of this too. There was unexplained cuts. But what we're talking about in here is one of the big line items is that they're going to cut and save money by firing consultants who work with the government. And this is something that I've actually kind of been on board with. I think that the government relies too heavily on consultants.
Yeah,
but
no. What you want them to do is stop doing this fiction where, to reduce the size of the civil service, they stop calling people who are doing a full employee's work a consultant to try and get around certain headlines. That's what you should do. That's not what Pierre Poilievre is proposing to do, because Poilievre is proposing to basically wipe out entire, parts of departments that have been quote unquote outsourced to quote unquote consultants, when these people do not actually in any meaningful way fit the definition of the terms consultant or or the implication that they are not really an employee.
And the book savings on these line items, it simply does not make sense.
You're not saving $10 billion, because especially if what you're doing is you're reclassifying a bunch of people back to full-time employees, you're not getting there. You're not getting close to there.
Yeah, so 1.3 billion in the first year, 4.3 in the second year, 7.3 billion dollars in the third year, and $10.5 billion in 2028 and 2029 if the Conservatives form government. That's savings from firing external consultants. This is pure fiction.
Well, this is, by the way, also at the time where the government of Canada is going to have to take on a shit ton more external counsel, probably. Because if they're going to just keep tossing around the notwithstanding clause, that's going to they're going to keep getting sued for it. Now, they are presumably going to win those lawsuits, right? But I'm sorry, do you think the CCLU? Do we think they're just gonna sit back and take it? Well, we know we're gonna lose because of the notwithstanding clause. Do you think they're just gonna fucking let that go every single time they pass some, tough on crime bill? They're gonna force them to go to the court. They're gonna force the court to overturn it. Then they're gonna force them to notwithstanding clause it. Then they're gonna probably sue about the notwithstanding clause usage. So yeah, you're also gonna have to spend a lot more on lawyers, buddy.
So this platform is garbage, and it really isn't worth the paper it's written on.
By the way, do you know where it's being hosted online?
Canada First for a Change .s3 US West 2 Amazon AWS.
Amazon AWS. Remember when we were supposed to be buying Canadian, buddy? I can't buy my rum anymore in Ontario.
US West 2 doesn't even make sense for them to host it in, because that's on the West. For those of you.
So again, I can't buy my rum, but Amazon Web Services gets to host this fucking thing.
Amazon West 2
I am not legally allowed to buy my rum of choice in this fucking country anymore.
They could have hosted this in Calgary. Amazon they have two locations. They have two POCs in Canada, Canada Central 1 and Canada West 1. Google also has edge locations in Canada, in Toronto and Montreal, and one in Canada West. This is an interesting choice. It's not hard to change your region for hosting stuff. So, well, it was a choice.
Love our commitment to fucking, to fucking being, all together. Oh, man, I hate the Conservatives so much. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We are going to go through the I don't know, man. I don't know how to phrase this. So we're obviously we're waiting for Leger. That's kind of like the theme of the day. That's mostly why we're recording right now. Is that we're just kind of waiting for Leger. But I mean, I don't know, man. You don't seem to have like a lot to talk about with this. You don't seem to have like the world's most to talk about with this platform. Like it seems like everyone's thing is like the numbers are fake. Polyam's full of shit. Doesn't seem like there's a lot more here.
I could talk about the Canadian Forces stuff a little bit, just simply because the last time the Conservatives were in power, they did undertake, and I'm gonna put this as comfortably as I can. Canada undertook during the Stephen Harper government a massive reorganization to the military and the military's identity. During that time, we changed from a peacekeeping force to a war-fighting force. Much of that was because of the 9/11 attacks, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, the escalating security state of the world in the war on terror era. During that time, military funding was cut, veterans were ignored, and one of the big things that the Harper government promised but never got done was the statue to honor the veterans of the Afghanistan war and those lost in the war of Afghanistan. I will point out that the Conservatives are once again promising to celebrate Canada's story. They want to restore our citizenship ceremonies, which I actually agree with. I think in-person ceremonies are an important part of becoming a Canadian. But erecting monuments to honor Canadian Armed Forces veterans who served in the Second World War and those who served in Afghanistan. I'm not sure why we need another monument for those who fought in the Second World War, not to diminish their contributions. But I would like to see the monument to those who served in Afghanistan. That would be really nice. The other thing I noticed here is
respectfully, if that's the best thing that you can say about their defense platform, given that we need to get to 2% and he's allegedly wants to get that done by 2030, I have some questions.
I am going to point out right now, one of the smartest things in the Liberal platform that I'm not seeing replicated in the Conservative platform is bringing the Coast Guard into the Canadian Armed Forces umbrella, into the Department of Defense. Not only does that immediately increase our defense spending, it also just makes sense. If we want to have a proper Coast Guard, they need to be operating under the Department of Defense. So that's a good move by the Liberals that I'm not seeing here by the Conservatives. So just something on that. I mean, there's just so many things in this Conservative platform where if I took this to the Conservative membership, I am sure they would assume the opposite is happening. Things like they're boosting the local journalism initiative by $25 million for local news. Providing $25 million in support for Indigenous language media. How frequently has this Conservative government and their supporters been so effusive about their hatred for government funding of media? And it's not just the CBC. They have specifically decried the type of funding that the local journalism initiative provides, calling it paid media, calling it government limitation of media speech.
Yeah, I mean look. I mean, Conservatives are massive hypocrites. I think we all know that. I'm not entirely sure that's news. I can't deal with these people. I decided to check my mentions, and there's already new conspiracies that actually, because of race depolarization, that means that actually the polls are going to be wrong and the Conservatives are going to beat their polls because there's a liberal response bias as non-English voters who are now going to vote for Polyev don't respond to polls. The proof for this is that BC has a bigger liberal elite abacus than Ontario does. That's it. That's the proof. The fact that this didn't happen in Ontario, now that doesn't seem to matter. The fact that most pollsters were actually high on Doug Ford's winning margin, not low, that doesn't seem to matter at all. No. My theory about Ray Stepp is, and I hate these people.
At the same time, I've seen people arguing that the Yahoo poll, because of its audience response size, is more statistically significant than the professionally conducted poll.
Okay, those people are just trying to find, fucking any fix in a storm, okay? These are, heroin addicts who are desperately trying to pawn the grandma's silver for one more fix, right? That I understand. I don't have any expectation of those people, right?
I just really wish people would understand what statistical significance is and what adjustments pollsters make to make the poll statistically viable.
Well, no, that's not even what I would like people to understand. You know what I would like people to understand? That almost none of these people make their money on political polling.
Yes. Yeah, that would be nice.
But political polling is a really... It's valuable way to prove that you're right, but it's also a very high risk way of proving that you're right.
That is
because true. What happens every time one of these people gets an election wrong, whoever it is. We should probably do like a bit on the pollster sort of war in a minute. But what happens every time one of these pollsters is wrong, no matter who it is their list of corporate clients, the people who actually pay the fucking bills, goes to them and says, hey, so why should we believe all of this data that you've gotten for us over the last month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, when we have this very clear example with a result, right, in extremely close proximity, right? And you went fucking tits up. You fucking sucked. Like, why should we believe any of this corporate research that you've done for us if your election poll was such garbage? And that has the effect of actually shuttering polling firms. Yeah, you know why Forum Research basically went away? It's partially because they lost their Toronto Star column, because they're polling in that entire parliament, the entirety of the Trudeau majority parliament. They had the Conservatives winning a majority government the entire fucking time, because it wasn't just the Star contract, right? The Star contract was not that valuable. It was not worth that amount of money. You know what it was? Crippling to the entire business of Forum Research. And so it's the same fucking thing here. Coletto is not, Coletto or Frank Graves or whoever, they're not trying to be wrong. And the answer to every question of, do you think the pollsters have thought about this? Do you think the pollsters have thought about this? Do you think the pollsters have thought about this? The answer to every question of, have the pollsters thought about X, is yes. They have thought about it a hell of a lot more than you. Okay? You know how I know this? Our pollster class in Canada is terminally online. Okay?
Yes.
They are psychotically online, right? Coletto was a fan of mine 4 years ago, okay? So, like, he's great. Keto and certainly the Main Street team, even beyond Keto, are extremely online and extremely cognizant of the conversation and the discourse, right?
And they're painfully aware of what happens when you say things that are not true.
I am not touching that with a 10-foot fucking pole. Thank you very much. If you know, you know. Frank Graves, obviously, terminally online. Terminally potential. Well, no, I'm not going to say that either. But even your Bricker, Nanos. I mean, do you know why I'm blocked by Nick Nanos on Twitter?
I do not.
Because in 2019, I tweeted, did not tag him. I just said we don't need to treat every bit of Nick Nano's punditry like it's news. Because Nanos was on CTV every day in that campaign on Evan Solomon's panel, and his punditry was quite often directly in variance to the actual statistical significance of his morning's polling. And so he literally was searching his name, just tweeted at me something like, I've got a 30-year track record of doing this. Look at how great my polling is. And then immediately blocked me.
Another one here, Ipsos.
Bricker's the biggest snowflake on the fucking on the face of the fucking earth.
But they're a publicly traded company, right? If they get things wrong, their share price goes down.
Yeah, of course. Angus Reid, I think has gracefully left the Twitter skies. But
goodness, that scumbag. But
yeah, but Sachi is very online, right? And the thing is, one of the great things, and not to glaze the guy, but like I love David Cochran so much. But one of the great things about Cochran is he's also pretty online. Like he's also pretty on Twitter. And when it comes to like the math and stuff, like I haven't watched every day, but I watched a bunch of Power Politics in campaign. And it's like, oh, so he's reading my columns. Oh, he's seeing the discourse. Oh, he's reading my tweets. Like the questions, like sometimes the questions he's asking Grenier are like, oh, these are a little too in the weeds for somebody to just have gotten there on their own. Like, no, he's paying attention. And like, I say that with all love, love you, Cochran, but like, it is wild to me how, sort of like how good of a polling universe we have. And like, of course, all of these people want to be right. We've had, I think, 12, 13, 14 national polls in my average right now. Like, that's the other thing people don't understand, man. One individual poll being like bad for the Liberals does not matter. Like, I'm sorry. What's 1/14 of a sample? 7%? That's what we're talking about? 6%? Like, that's what we're talking about with all these polls. Anyways, did you see Coletto throwing some shade at Frankie yesterday?
I did. Yes, that was funny. I mean,
it's also, let's be real, true. It was never a 15-point lead. It never was. I'm really sorry.
In terms of where the polling stands, do you want to talk about the model you have and where we're?
Oh, I wanted you to opine on. I wanted you to put to opine on Coletto Graves a little bit more. I don't know. You haven't talked, man. I just assumed you'd have more thoughts than just like, yeah, I saw it. Wow, just not engaging with my.
Well, my entire thing with the polling, and this is something that everyone seems to be paying attention to, the spread between the conservatives and the liberals, and I just don't think people understand what vote efficiency is. The conservatives are going to get like 70% of the vote in Saskatoon, right? Like their vote efficiency in Alberta, in Manitoba, in Saskatchewan is going to be probably insane. And it's going to make up a huge part of their vote share. But it doesn't matter. Because once you get to the provinces, the election is already, the prairies, the election is already over. It is decided in the Atlantic, and it is decided in Quebec and Ontario. Once it's done, it's done. I'm not saying that the votes out there don't matter. I'm not saying that they do not deserve or get adequate representation. But the vast majority of the people who live in this country live on the east side of this country. And
yeah, I mean, the thing is, the thing that I think about a lot when it comes to like the vote efficiency stuff is like, you have to remember two things in tandem. One, Liberals almost always underrun their polling in Alberta and in Saskatchewan, right? And this is why I have always been low on the Liberals in some of the stretch targets there. I've never really talked up Kildonan St. Paul. Kildonan? I don't know. I think that's right. And frankly, I've never been like a 5 Alberta guy, right? I've always been like a 3 Alberta guy. And I think that's pretty much there. BC's pretty interesting. I kind of, the weird thing is that, like, yeah, you can look at a few of the seats, Abbotsford. I mean, that's just a Mike DeJean thing. Like, that's just I think it was a Chilliwack seat at the 2020 BC election that similar things sort of happened. There was a moderate independent conservative, or a BC Liberal at the time. There was the incumbent BC Liberal got booted mid-campaign for like races or for like homophobia or something.
Where was that?
Chilliwack in 2020. I think it was Chilliwack, 2020. Provincially, and the NDP came up the middle with like 37% of the vote or something. So something like that, I think, is totally plausible in Abbotsford. A Liberal win in the low 40s, a high 30s. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if DeJong wins, but I feel like people are assuming a lot more Liberals are going to vote for DeJong than necessarily will. But it's like, this election's going to come down to how well we do in the Atlantic, how well we do in Quebec, and how well we do in Ontario. Let's start in Atlantic Canada. I mean, the math is pretty strong for the Liberals there. Big swing in the polling, at the very least, to the Liberals. The problem, I think, so the two countervailing pressures in Atlantic Canada are, it's really old, and it looks like boomers are going for the Liberals.
Yeah.
But it's also rural, and, there have been a lot of places that have looked sort of right trending in the last couple of campaigns because of its ruralness, its gun ownership levels, not necessarily always the, most progressive views on abortion. I mean, right now we're looking at, something like 5 conservative seats. They got 8 at the last election. 3 gains there would do a lot of good. Even if we lose, even if they lose, 2 more seats in 2 more seats in Newfoundland, which is, I think, the possibility. Yeah. They could lose Central Nova, which they lost in the last election. The old Notre Dame de Grasse, whatever the hell that seat was called, Scott Simpson's old seat. And then they could lose Flung Mountain because they picked a shit candidate. Ben Oates just sent me the notes on this. Shout out to my former and once again future podcast. I'm having him on afterwards to sort through the campaign out there. But it looks like Atlantic Canada is going to probably worst case. We're probably not going to lose net seats out of Atlantic Canada. I think that's pretty much the best you can hope for, right? Is a sort of hold steady situation. I mean, does that sort of if we walked out of there with the 2021 24-8 split, are you with me and just saying, yep, that's fantastic, let's get out of there and run?
Yeah, I would be happy. I would be happy with picking up what we won previously, and it looks like there are a couple pickups, and that would be nice, but 24-8 would be fine.
Yeah. I think Atlantic Canada is it's really interesting, but I don't think we need 2 Ontarians really pretending to claim that we understand Canada equality. And
you don't think the people want to hear me talk about Mac the Quack?
I can guarantee you that there's nothing in life that I want to hear less than that. Okay, Quebec. Yes, we are 2 Anglos that are about to talk about Quebec. The difference is that we both have Quebec roots, although not really Quebecois roots.
I would agree with that, yes.
But we are where we are. Polling in Quebec is weird as shit, man, and I don't know what to do with it. And I'm aware of the fact that we are recording before Leger, so this a lot of this conversation might look really silly if Leger comes in at like a tied race or something, or at a 15-point race. So Abacus has a 3-point race. Angus Reid has a 2-point race. Ipsos has a 15-point race. Polaire has a 9-point race. Main Street has an 10-point race. Nanos has like a 13. Polaire has a 16. Sorry, Liaison has a 16. MQO still has like a 30. It's quite an interesting suite of pull. Eco still has like a 25. It's quite an interesting suite of options here. And it is really quite a choose your own adventure for what you want to do with Quebec. If it's a 2-3, single digit point race, a lot of the Liberal gains that they want to get majority government do fall out the window. That said, another 5-point swing would only deliver 5 more seats for the Conservatives from the 44 that they currently project for. And that would be perfectly acceptable. I think 39 seats in 4 games out of Quebec would be perfectly acceptable and perfectly in line with the idea that they could still get majority government, especially with how good the BC polling looks. What do you make of Quebec? Did you watch the French debate at all? And is there really anything we can do other than just sort of hoping that, that if there was some post-debate infatuation with bullshit, that it might be fading? Because that's the possibility, is that the daily trackers are seeing that, sort of saw the spike and are already seeing it recede, whereas the panel pollsters that got in and out a bit earlier haven't seen it yet. Like, are still got too much of the post-debate surge. Also, weekends have been wonky as hell in this campaign. It's possibly partially that. What do you make of Quebec? What do you make of the sort of massive gulf in opinion there? And what are you thinking?
What it looked like it was going to come down to when this election first kicked off was the kind of suburban, non-Montreal areas. And I think it shifted a little bit to the point that we're looking a bit more into the central Quebec and eastern Quebec areas that I wasn't expecting to have to know much about, if I'm being quite honest. One of the more interesting races is Berthier-Masconnigues, where Ruth Ellen Brasso, the waitress, the Vegas MP, is once again running.
Sorry, she wasn't. No. Get your REB lore right. She wasn't a waitress. She was a Carlton bartender.
Thank you.
You're right.
Bartender who was first elected, and she was in Vegas the day of the election. But she ended up being quite a good representative for the riding, from what I understand. So I actually, this is a 3-way race. So it is one of the more interesting ones, with the Liberals at about 28, the Bloc at 30, the NDP at 27. So that's going to be one that I'm watching. But really here, there are a lot of ridings that I wasn't expecting to be in play that the Liberals have a very good shot of taking. Like places like La Prairie. I thought that was a shoe-in for the Bloc coming into this election, but the numbers keep slipping back the Liberals' way. You're right. The weekends have been kind of strange, but yeah, I'm seeing more and more across Quebec where people are very much taking seriously the sovereignty threat and maybe are moving away from the Bloc Québécois because of it.
I think the thing that's really interesting is that this is the first election where the French debate was not, 25 minutes of sort of national issues, and then 75 minutes of, is that how long a debate would be?
Yeah, about that.
Something cool enough. And then like 80 minutes of like, and here's all your Quebec bullshit, right?
Yes.
Language laws, fucking religious discrimination, like just checklist down the random Quebec pandering, right?
I think
it was actually a national debate held in French.
I think that they did a good job hosting. Sorry, I think they did a good job hosting. What is it? TLMP.
Tout le monde en parle.
Yeah, tout le monde en parle. I think they did a good job hosting that right before the debate, and that made a big difference in the content. They didn't
exactly, and then giving Blanchette sort of last right of recall, I think was pretty, or last right of rebuttal, I should say, was pretty interesting. But like the Quebec debate was far more national, and the issue set was far more national this time than it's been basically ever.
And I don't want to take away from Yves' competence on those issues either. He is able to speak to national issues in a way most people probably don't expect from someone whose party is specifically focused on the issues of Quebec. But the national problems, they do play in Quebec the same way that they do anywhere else. Quebec needs housing. They need help on immigration. They need help on education, on healthcare. They have the same cost of living problems. Everything is the same in Quebec as it is everywhere else in Canada. So I'm glad that we didn't take a lot of time worrying about Bill C-21 or Bill 21 rather, and we didn't spend a lot of time worrying about their language stuff, because if they started arguing about that stuff, it would just turn into an argument about Quebec's sovereignty and their ability to pass provincial laws. And that's not the argument we need right now.
Yeah, of course. And I think the smartest thing Blanchette has done, and I'm going to write about this probably by the time people are listening to this, is, conceded the Liberals are going to win, which is in effect sort of de-escalates the need for Quebecers to vote for the Liberals to stop the Conservatives, right? I think the problem with that is this weird thing where Conservatives are actually insistent they're winning. And if Abacus, if a sort of round of Liberal bedwetting happens after Abacus and potentially after Leger, again, we are recording in the interregnum before that, and you'll hear it after. It's entirely possible that there is another shitstorm stirred up about, oh my God, we're going to let Poilievre in. At which point, Liberal voters feel safe enough, or people who were like, "No, the Liberals have a big enough lead. I can vote for the NDP or I can vote for the Bloc," feel the need to come back. The other thing, of course, is that we're going to get pretty good tells of, with the combination of the debates being so late, this round of polling being with the weekend stuff, and then we're going to be getting everybody out of the, we're going to be getting everybody in the field sort of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right?
And we have a lot of people who've already voted. A lot of people who've already voted.
Yeah, but the thing is that the pollsters, but every pollster is going to release a final by, next week.
Absolutely. But I'm really interested to see what that does to the numbers.
I don't know. I feel like people love to talk about like, oh, who voted early and all that stuff, and I've yet never ever been convinced that it really matters.
That's fair.
We do this for 2 months in the US every fucking year. Like, I can't do it in Canada as well. Also, can I just point out that I don't know if you saw my tweet last night, but so you've seen the Conservative golfing ad, right?
Yes, it was filmed local to Pierre and apparently you.
So I am now in Pierre Poilievre's riding. I got redistricted into Pierre Poilievre's riding. I decided to try and take what I thought was going to be a shortcut back from polling, and then it ended up being very much a long cut. Anyways, I realized as I saw the ad that it was at the Kevin Haim driving range on Hazeldean. And one, I literally walked by it while I was I literally walked by it as I was walking back from my polling place, which is hilarious. But two, and this is even fucking funnier to me, right? How did they think that ad was gonna sound relatable?
Terrible ad.
Like, oh, we had to pay for Sarah's down payment. If the ad had said instead of that, Sarah's looking to buy, but prices are just so high. I'd see it. It's a good ad. Oh, poor fucking baby. Your kid only got a free down payment for her house. Well, things are so hard. Fuck off. Here's the thing, buddy. If you want an ad, if you want to make this ad a thing, right? And you want to be the party of boots, not suits, do you think the 66-year-old ex-pulp and paper mill worker in fucking Powell River has down payment money to just give their kid?
There's so many ways that they could have done this ad differently. And it just
one line of dialogue. All you need to fix is one line of dialogue.
I mean, I just would have done it at a hockey rink or something, or
I defend golf as a
don't get me wrong, I love
sport than it is.
I love to play golf, but
I mean the really funny thing, if you want to get like deep into Canada lore, right? So Kevin Haim is about a 2-minute drive where they filmed it to the Canada Rec Center, which has 2 hockey rinks in it. It is about a 3-minute drive from the Bell Sensplex, which is where the Sens practice and where they have 4 hockey rinks. It's about a 4-minute ride from... Oh shit! What's the hockey rink by the Ball Diamond? Why am I fucking oh my god! I'm offended as a Canada guy. But like, if you wanted to do it at a hockey rink, right? If you want to have them be sort of like hockey dads or hockey granddads, right? Really wouldn't have been that hard to do, right? Could have had them walking out of the KRC, or you could have had them, sitting in the thing with the, with the rink behind them. Okay. So that would have been very obviously available to them in the same geographic area. I don't understand. I mean, I guess they decided that it would work well in golf, but it's like they didn't. The problem is that they didn't. I can't believe they thought that they were going to sound relatable by being like, well, we had to pay the down payment. Here's my other question. So who is hitting balls in the background? Is it like conservative staffers, or did they just like unwittingly put people in the background of their ad?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Because there's a bunch of people in the background, especially because one of the ways I was trying to identify it to make sure it was Kevin Haim is there's a sort of subdivision behind the like white sweater guy. When you're looking that way,
the older gentleman, yes.
Yeah, sure. And it's like I was trying to ID that to make sure that was what I thought it was, and therefore that it was Kevin Haim, and I was correct. But it's like there are people hitting.
Well, I think that those would be extras, probably paid extras.
The casting call was only for 2 people.
Oh, interesting.
So was it like Poilievre's like staffers doing it, or like is Kevin Haim even open yet? I mean, I guess presumably, but like
I would hope so.
I don't know, man. It's been pretty dreary in Ottawa.
True. I was there not too long ago. It was a very cold time and place.
Yeah, you were here for the leadership thing. Which,
I was.
Whatever. I don't know. I think Quebec is going to come down to like I don't know, man. The Liberals are at least going to should at least be able to hold their 35. I know it's 33 with the thing, but like I think, well, I guess basically it doesn't seem great. 34, I think, should be the floor for us, but we should make some gains. You know, Blenville, Shefford, maybe. You know, there's great stuff. Now let's play a fun game. Let's play a fun game in the model. I need you to not look at the model for this one, though. Okay.
Okay.
We are gonna go through the GTA and let's play a fun game of how fucked are the conservatives? What is the closest seat in? What is the margin? I just need you to guess the margin in the closest seat in Brampton.
Closest seat in Brampton, 7%.
13.3.
Wow, that's almost double.
Burlington.
So there's 2 seats in Burlington.
Sorry, I just want you to give me. I just want you to give me the seat. The seat.
Oh. Let's say 10%.
17.
What? Wow.
Burlington North, Milton West. How's what AVK?
Yes, it is. I was up there canvassing, and based on what I heard at the door, I'm going to go with 13%.
19.7.
Wow.
Cambridge, former swing seat of Cambridge.
Are you kidding me? There can't be it has to be like 5%.
12.8.
That's, come on now. Cambridge, Ontario.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there's been some good sort of demographic movement out of Kitchener.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Cambridge is a growing city, but it's still very much, you have places like Branston and Glen Morris and Preston and Little Lake. It's a very it's not rural, but it's that ex-urban kind of, not suburban. You know what I mean?
We have Leger.
All right.
You 43-39 national. Does this? Okay, 42% liberal share in Quebec, Ontario 48, 54
Wow.
in Canada. Does not seem like they're going to give me margins, but 42 in Quebec is fucking something, buddy. 42 in Quebec is everybody can calm the fuck down result.
Yeah.
For everybody involved. Thank you to the Twitter follower of mine who sent me this. So that's exciting. I'm 42 in Quebec. I'm very excited about this. Hamilton East, Stony Creek. We're continuing our game.
Hamilton East, Stony Creek. That can't be more than 5.
6.
Okay.
Hamilton West, Ancaster Dundas.
5.
8.
This
Canada.
is really bad for the conservatives.
Canada.
So that's
Just going to point out a seat the conservatives won from 2004 to 2015.
wow. But they haven't taken it since. I'm gonna go 15.
17.8.
Wow.
The Kitchener South Hespeler.
Kitchener South Hespeler, that is that guy, Matt Strauss. That Dr. Matt. I really hope he's losing by more than 10.
10.7.
Let's go.
Conestoga, see, we've won by like a point 2 times in a row. That's what, a 9. That's a 9.3. Linda West is getting competitive, I guess. That's something. Milton East, 9.6. Closest seat in Mississauga, that's what that's called. 11.1. Mark Carney's up a robust 21% in Nepean. Niagara Falls is falling to the Liberals. Oakville. How do we think our Oakville peeps are doing?
Again, from what I saw at the doors in Oakville West, I really think Seema Akan is doing incredibly well. So I'm gonna say that she wins by 10 at least there. Oakville East, Anita Anand is an incredibly
14 in Oakville West, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Anita Anand is incredibly popular in Oakville. Ron Chisner is gonna have a tough time getting within 15 of her, I think.
15.4.
Nice.
And that's without an incumbency boost for Anand, because I don't give incumbency for like new for retained incumbents.
No, because it's already baked in.
Because then you're just stacking incumbency on incumbency on incumbency, bro. So, do you understand the gimmick, the point of the gimmick that we have engaged in here?
Yeah, I severely underrated what liberal support is like in the GTA, and
by the way, this is with a significant amount of race step being built into my modeling. But what happens is that all that happens is Brampton goes from 30-point wins to 20-point wins, or 20-point wins to 10-point wins.
And you go to the Angus Reid, the recent results out of their cities, we're talking about 62% for the Liberals, a more than 30-point swing over the Conservatives in Toronto.
The city, the 416, like the Conservatives.
But then you have TO 905, and it's 56-38 for the Liberals. We're talking about complete wipeout territory for the Conservatives right now.
Yeah, Palace did I think a 905 only, which was L7, which is I think the 905 proper was L9 the last election. So 905, so GTA minus 416.
Yeah.
So again, probably what you're doing is the Conservatives are probably going to do better in Brampton. Sure. Yeah, that's probably happening, right? Maybe they flip Markham Unionville because Chinese voters or whatever, right? Looking at these again, the Liberal lead in Ontario is bigger than it was at the last election, and probably about to be bigger, given that the Liberal vote share is up in Ontario in that Legere poll, which I have not been able to add in because they didn't give me a Conservative vote share, right? But you're talking about sort of all of this latent strength, and yes, if race step happens, what you're going to see is shrunken margins in Brampton, but they're not winning a seat in Brampton. They're not winning a seat in Scarborough. And so if you're not winning seats in Brampton, Mississauga, and Scarborough, right, then then you're just going to get fucked on the altar first past the post.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
What is that worth?
They needed
what is it worth to lose your closest Brampton seat by 8 instead of by 17 under first past the post?
I'm not sure.
Nothing. Pasta Fugo.
Right.
It's a Fugazi. It's a Fugazi. It's a wazzy, it's a woozy. What movie am I quoting right now?
I do know that. What is it? What movie is that?
It's McConaughey. Fuck. It's McConaughey and Leo.
Oh, yes. Wolf of Wall Street.
They talked about cocaine and masturbation earlier. Oh, Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street.
God. I have never seen the entirety of Wolf of Wall Street, but I have seen the first 90 minutes about 5 times.
So, based on what I have seen living in the 905, and knowing the candidates they're running across the 905, the conservatives were highly banking on the idea that crime would be the determinant factor for voters in the 905. And that has not turned out.
Well, yeah, because we have a little problem called Donnie fucking Trump.
We do. We have Donald Trump. And if you look at recent public opinion surveys, crime is... most people do still feel safe in Canada. The crime story that we see played up on social media and in media in general isn't borne out in public opinion research. So it's interesting that the conservatives have tried to run that campaign and stuck so hard to it here.
Yeah, no, it's quite wrong. Well, again, it's a very 2024 campaign, right? It's a very the campaign I wanted to run against Justin Trudeau with like some Trump stuff added on. Have you ever read like a game, like a game story from something, and it's like big lead, you can tell the vast majority of the piece is written, and then like there's like a furious fourth quarter comeback that falls short, and they kind of like, you can feel the bits about the fourth quarter sort of like hacked into the gamer that was very clearly written at the end of the third quarter.
Yes. Yeah.
That's kind of how this conservative campaign feels like, with the Trump stuff kind of in the like, oh yeah, and then Michael Porter Jr. hit 4 threes and they ended up losing by 7, not 25. Because you're kind of just like yada-yadaing through the new thing, and you're just like, well, I want to get back to telling my story about, this great defensive performance in the second quarter, right? I don't know why I chose a basketball analogy for this.
I feel like football would have been more on brand, but
I don't know, man. I've been watching a lot of basketball and hockey this week. Okay, bite me. I don't know, man. Like BC looks like it's going to be good for the Liberals, but I don't know how many gains they're going to get. Like Abbotsford, maybe. Pitt Meadows, maybe. South Surrey, White Rock, probably.
I mean, the bigger story in BC is the complete wipeout of the NDP.
Well, yeah, and then you're looking at Victoria, New Westminster, Eskimo Saanich Sooke, Vancouver Kingsway, maybe Saanich. Saanich is going to be an utter shit show. I feel pretty confident in that. But like, you are looking at a situation where, I think BC is going to provide more gains than people were sort of penciling in. And the other problem is, so Brian Baguette, sort of frenemy of the pod.
He's been on a couple times, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been on twice. But like, I don't know, man. Can I really say Brian is my friend? Given the, eminently hostile nature of our, alliance.
I feel like you would immediately get canceled also.
I'm honestly, genuinely, and if he listens to this, I would have no problem saying this to his face. I'm honestly surprised at how polite he is when he comes on. Like he's a very good guest. So he lives in Kingsway, and he's like convinced that Don Davies isn't winning anymore. Like he's convinced. And if you look at all of the sort of like discourse of like him having to tack on shit onto his signs to be like, in BC, we vote NDP to stop conservatives. You're in Kingsway, bro.
Yeah.
You're in fucking Kingsway, bro. You're worried about strategic voting and you're in Kingsway, motherfucker. How? So he's acting like he's desperate, but every dumbass is like, well, Don Davies is always going to win. He's such an incredible fucking candidate. Cool. If he's such a fucking incredible candidate, why did he only win by 21 last time against the, like, why is he going to become a 20? Let's look. Let's be data literate here. Live average, there is a not 29.4% swing in BC, NDP to Liberal. Okay, why is Don Davies going to become an 8-point better candidate than he was last time? Do 8 points better than the provincial numbers would suggest? Why would he earn 8 points of incumbency in this one election season?
I also,
because whatever incumbency he already has is already built into the baseline.
I also I appreciate that I don't live in Kingsway and I can't really know what he's done for the community, but what has he done for the community?
Not a lot.
What is his specific work?
No, he's just on Twitter doing polydielism.
To me, he just seems like BC's version of these like NDP Mark Garrettson.
Oh, that's so rude, but I love it.
Am I wrong? Like what?
I didn't say you're wrong. I said it's rude. I mean, no, you're right. It's oh god. By the way, speaking of, Garrettson fucking sucks. Can we just admit that?
I am excited for another Liberal to represent the people of Kingston and the island.
Your former home of Kingston.
I would not call it my home. I trained there at Canadian Forces School of Communications and Electronics.
How many times have you gotten thrown out of stages?
On the same night?
Yeah, no, you lived in Kingston. You're in Kingston. If you know what that means, you lived in. Well, I say that as somebody who has never lived in Kingston, but I've stayed there with friends before. So, God, what a decrepit place. Stadium. Jesus Christ. Oh my Lord. So yeah, I mean, it seems like it's a Liberal majority unless everything falls apart on us. And Leger just told us. So, by the way, it's a 2-point increase in the Liberal vote in Quebec and a 2-point increase in the Liberal vote in Ontario. We don't know what the Bloc number is. We don't know what the Conservative number in Ontario is. But week over week on vote share, it's a 2-point increase in both thing. Obviously, people will know what Leger has said by the time they listen to this. What do you make of the general? So, like, looks like it's majority government still on.
I really like. There's a outside chance of a plurality, like a minority Liberal government, maybe plurality Conservative, but it's like so low odds.
Well, the other thing I will say is if we're looking at a situation where the Liberals fail to get majority government, I think a lot of people are like, oh, the Bloc would have the balance of power. Okay, but look at why the Liberals would fail to get a minority government, right? Some combination of the following people basically have to win that are currently projected to lose in my model if you're going to see a Conservative minority, or where you're going to see a minority parliament, right? Leah Gazan in Winnipeg Center.
Mm-hmm.
Don Davies in Vancouver Kingsway. Laurel Collins in Victoria. Peter Julian in New Westminster Ballardville or whatever the hell it's called. Nikki Ashton in Churchill.
So what you're saying is it's the NDP's fault.
So what? Well, no. So what I'm saying is that in a circumstance in which the NDP win government, or in which the Liberals win a minority government, the NDP would probably be at double digits, right? Would probably be flirting with party status, at which point then you need the Liberals to fall to like 160 or below for the NDP not to have the balance of power.
Yeah.
Right. And I just don't see 30 losses for the combined progressive left at this election from here, right? Because so the Bloc are already back to the 20s for me, right? Let's say the Bloc at 29, which I think would be high, right? So that's 8. Are the Conservatives finding 20 gains at some point in the next 2 weeks? Or next week? Not even?
And where are they coming?
Know.
Why are they coming? What at this point we have the policy announcements.
Sorry, what do you so today is going to be the Conservatives released a shit budget, right? Tomorrow is going to probably be, the day 2 stories about like because what ends up happening when you release a document this bad, right? And Mike Moffat definitely helped do this in 2014 Ontario, right? When a work is this sloppy, there's a bunch of unexploded grenades, for lack of a better way of putting it, in like the more that you dig into it and the more you try and like retcon the math, right? Those all end up being day 2 stories. And none of those 2-day stories are going to be good, right? The conservative tax cut that's not really a tax cut because they're phasing it in super slowly over 4 years. You know what that is? A day 2 story.
Yeah.
You know what that ends up being? What the story ends up being tomorrow? Mark Carney attacks Pierre Poilievre for delaying tax relief. And there's even more, like that's just what, again, Tyler Meredith found in an hour or whatever dealing with this, right? But there are going to be unexploded grenades that are going to keep exploding on them. So that's your final week momentum fucked. Where do you go to get any of it back?
Well, that's exactly it. There's not anything he can do. You can't announce something new. You can't make new promises. So all you can do is appeal to the people you've already won to turn out. At this point, it's about the turnout game. And
yeah, but the problem for the Conservatives is that one, the little bit of info we have from Ecos is that the Conservatives, the Liberals won advance voting.
Yeah.
And B, and I think this is pretty important or pretty interesting at the very least, I'm pretty strongly of the belief that higher turnout's better for the Liberals in this case, because I think the less politically engaged you get, the likelier it's going to be that the voters are kind of going on Trump is bad vibes than they are to be like, I think the more invested this electorate is, right, the more sort of pays attention the average voter in this electorate is, the more likely they are to know that the Liberals specifically fuck the housing market, right? Or, specifically have a reason to be mad at sort of the Sean Fraser is back as a candidate again stuff, right? Because he was a failure of an immigration minister. I kind of think that the voters between the like 65% and 75%, right, in turnout are they're very much just going to be like, we got to stand for Canada. Mark Carney seems chill, elbows up. Mike Myers.
That's entirely vibes, but I don't disagree. Obviously, we both have the same.
Right, but I think in this case there is some data to back it up, right? Remember the Abacus poll said that voters who only watched part of the debate thought Carney won it. Voters who watched most of the debate thought it was closer to a tie, and Poilievre won hugely with voters who watched the entire thing. Now that's partially, I think, skewed by the fact that again Carney's worst answer came at about 8:45 at night, but it does suggest that the people who basically stuck around for the tariff stuff and didn't bother watching anything else really think Carney is best at that. And if that is the low info voter of this campaign, elbows up, motherfucker.
Elbows up.
You got any other takes you want to get off before you now that you're back in the public space for a bit?
Yeah, so the one thing I will say is there has been a lot of bullshit surrounding this campaign. We have the journalist wars with Ezra Levant and Hill Times and everything going on there. It's frustrating to watch people come to the defense of antagonists and non-journalists like Ezra Levant in the name of freedom of the press. A lot of these people are just swindlers and liars. They exist to scam you of your money, steal your money, make up stories, make up lies, and pump you for more money. Ezra Levant is personally running 2 third-party advertising corporations right now, both the Rebel and something called For Canada. They're both organizations that exist to raise money, to advertise, to get a specific party elected. And at the same time, we're supposed to believe that the Rebel is performing neutral journalism. I just seen so much bullshit from people. The latest thing is that you should bring a pen or you should bring a marker to go vote. Folks, the chain of ownership over those ballot boxes, the chain of custody is the term I'm looking for. That box gets sealed once your votes are in there, and then they're hand counted in front of scrutineers.
And
there's
also,
no time
you'd be able to tell if something had been erased.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous that people are trying to throw this tiny bit of doubt into people's minds.
Remember when I said that the answer to any question of have pollsters thought about this is yes, they have, and have definitely spent more time thinking about it than you.
Yeah.
The people who designed our election laws have also spent more time thinking about these things than you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as somebody, by the way, who has scrutineered, I don't know, half a dozen elections in my life before I decided I would rather, yeet myself off this earth and do it again. It's really boring. It's really just a pro forma thing, right? Like, for all the talk of, these like huge debates about whether this vote counts or not, like, I've don't think I've ever actually had like a genuinely difficult situation.
Yeah, like, I mean, to me, I think the scrutineers are more there to update the parties on the goings on of the count than anything.
Yeah, that is the actual purpose. Is we can get our results. So the parties can know 15 minutes earlier than the official data.
Yeah,
that's the only reason. Well, that end, we need at least 2 party representatives to confirm the count, so that it's, if somebody has counted wrong, you can count again, right? But like, it's a very boring process. You can, if you ever actually have doubts, the reason I don't do it anymore is that I like watching results come in. And so, like, I don't want to be stuck in a gym. Like, I didn't get to watch the 2015 election coverage because I was in, I was in Ottawa to be in. But it's just a bunch of people just counting and ticking things on a sheet of paper. That's all it is. We're all just doing ticks. Like, that's it.
And that's it.
Really boring. Here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing, okay? The Canadian government, and especially the Liberal government of the last, 4 years, right, has been mostly incompetent at everything. Do you think the government that took, that decided to listen to Randy fucking Wadswano and open up the immigration system because Lululemon was like, we won't build a factory in wherever the fuck, or we won't, I don't even think it was a factory. I think it was just a store in Vancouver if you don't let us bring in cheap immigrants to work there. And like, took 2 years to like realize that their housing problems were real. I'm sorry, do you think that political party and that government is actually physically capable of a conspiracy at this point?
This is the
it
thing.
Took us like 3 days to get rid of Paul Chang. And you think we're capable of a fucking conspiracy?
There is no government that is capable of a conspiracy on that scale. Well, that's
on any scale.
Yes. There's no government in the Western world that is capable of a conspiracy on that scale. there's just too many people who have vested interest in having that not happen, or have vested interest in having the information about it shared.
Also, you know why nothing in Ottawa stays a secret?
Because everyone goes to Darcy McGee's and brags about it after the fact.
Well, yeah, but because when you have a piece of information, you want to trade that information for something better, right? So, because you just want to accumulate information, and nobody in Ottawa, and nobody in DC, and nobody in London, and nobody in Canberra, and nobody in. Do you want me to just keep naming capitals, or have I established my point?
I think you get it.
Okay. Nobody in any of these places here's a really juicy bit of information, has a juicy bit of information, and tells nobody, right? That's not how this works. Everybody tells somebody. And sometimes it ends there, and sometimes that somebody tells their wife, and then their wife is at a party and then tells somebody else because something related comes up in conversation, and they say, no, that's not true. It was this. And then suddenly half the fucking town knows it. Remember in I think it was July when I wrote the piece about when I sort of wrote the piece about Carney, when there was all that stuff about like Carney, sort of being vaguely tapped to be finance minister. Yes. Right. Remember in December, the Friday before Freeland resigned, when I sort of wrote the piece that I did, and I laid out that like she's gone, and if Carney had wanted to be finance minister in July, he'd have been finance minister in July.
Yeah.
I didn't have great sourcing on that in the sense of like, I didn't have it from Mark Carney or anybody who I think had spoken to Mark Carney directly, which is why I didn't write it in July. But what I did have is the fact that like 4 different people told me it. And if I am hearing something like that, that means it's widely known. Okay.
Well, widely known within the bubble. And that's an important thing.
Sure, but that means that like at least 500 to 1,000 people know before.
Yes.
At least, and probably multiple thousands. I'm not top 50 in getting a scoop, okay? I'm not top 100 in getting. I just know, like, I mean, I'm probably a bit closer to it now. But like, remember, this was also like post St. Paul's, when everyone, when half of the fucking hill, or at least half of the hill that fucking knows who I am, was calling me a fucking, Rupal and rupee getting Modi Putin's, shill. But all of this to say, man, when they fucking, like, it's just very obvious to me that nothing in this town could ever stay a conspiracy long enough. And frankly, especially with Elections Canada, like, the people who end up working these things for Elections Canada, they're basically just like college students and boomers who need the money.
Or who have nothing better to do with their time, yeah.
Right. Like, the polling place I was in, it was 2 college students were at the front desk. One guy, I don't know how old he was. I have to say this, and I mean this in the greatest way possible. I am really bad non-white people, because they age so well. I'm terrible at guessing their ages. And then it was like an old, and then like the other person was like an old white guy. Like a very just like normal thing, but like it was 2 college students at the front desk sort of telling you where to go. It was, a boomer. Like that those are the people doing this, man. I don't think the guy who just wants like a $300 paycheck or whatever he's going to get for working one day, or $250 a day or whatever the price is, right? Apparently Elections Canada pays pretty well, is what I've heard. The guy who just wants his, couple $100 in drinking money is not, respectfully, he's not part of a Davos conspiracy. Okay.
The WEF is not coming to steal our elections by making you use a pencil.
Also, every time I have to hear about him, I do just hear the Bowie song start playing in my head. Rebel, rebel. I can't stop hearing that. I don't know, man. What's your highlight of the campaign been? Funniest moment, best moment, what's it been?
Oh. I think my best moment was going out canvassing. If you haven't done it, you should go do it because it's really fun going to walk around and talk to people who aren't tiny little people. I highly encourage.
This is the most dad of two opinion you could have ever expressed.
I just like haven't spoken to people in a really long time, so it was really nice to do that.
Favorite column of mine from this campaign?
Ooh. I think it was the one where you called Pierre Poilievre an idiot.
That doesn't limit this. That doesn't limit it, motherfucker.
That was the joke. I legitimately, I think it was the Jagmeet Singh one.
Really?
Yeah, I think like, you know, he deserves
that
his
one
own,
certainly got a good reception from a lot of liberals. I will say that
he deserves his own. Thank you for being so terrible, because we couldn't have done it without you.
So it's funny. I think I've been reading a bunch of my stuff from this campaign, mostly because I haven't had anything better to do. This campaign's really boring me, guys. I don't know what more I can say. I think the Jagmeet one's pretty good. I think the election like preview is actually really underratedly good.
Yes.
Like that one, I don't know, man. Like for some reason I just like got into a zone on that one with the sort of just with the sort of rhythm and the sort of like allowing myself to be a little you know, thing. I think the Daryl Brooker, the just absolute annihilation of Daryl Brooker and Big Shift was really fun.
Yeah.
And it has to be, I think the number one for me is the very Gordownian infused everybody shut the fuck up, calm the fuck down piece. God, I love Gordowny. God, I love Tragically Hip.
And they are fantastic.
I don't cry very often. I just opened that column to make sure it's what I was thinking it is, and like I just see they're all for Gord, but this one's for Gord, and I just start tearing up. Like it's so insane to me how this isn't like it was politics. It's just insane to me how beloved the Hip were. Not insane in a bad way, insane in a great way, but like it was so funny, obviously in a tragic way, but like, you know, once we found out about Gordon's condition, like just every Canadian band just decided to throw in a Hip cover onto their touring set lists. The Arkells did My Music at Work, you know. It's wild to me that you know, in a country that agrees on nothing, the one thing we can all agree on is the Tragically Hip. God, it is really funny to me that I am 28 years old. So it's funny. Everybody thinks I'm really, really old, and then I'm like, why does everybody think I'm old? And then I remember that my three probably best cultural touchdowns were a 1990s Anthony Bourdain New Yorker essay, Tragically Hip, and Frank Sinatra. And then I'm surprised people think I'm young, or people think I'm older than 28. Aren't I just delightful?
You're an old soul.
I don't know. Can I just say I'm really glad the election wasn't that the election's April 28th and not May 5th.
Why's that? Oh, another
Uh,
week of this would have been death. Yes.
Well, another week of this would have put me in a would have put my head through a wall. May 4th, 2015 was Grandpa Dimitrov's death, and that weekend's going to be hell for me. And the 10-year anniversary, and I've been thinking about him, and I've been thinking about St. Catharines, and I've been thinking about Montreal, where he worked. He's the grandfather that worked in the Sun Life building, and he's the reason that I love Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sammy Davis, and he has instilled that sort of love of the crooners in me, and I've just been thinking about him a lot, and I'm very grateful for him, and I'm very grateful for the time that I got to spend with him, and I'm very grateful for those memories and those experiences, and I just am very, very glad that this campaign's about to be done, because oh fucking boy, I need this campaign to end, and I need this campaign to end fucking now. Nathaniel Arfin at Arfin Nathaniel on Twitter. You're back for a little bit. You might be going away. Well, I don't. I'm not saying that as if I know anything. I'm just saying Cardi's people would be idiots not to hire you back. So
I appreciate it.
I will say that I don't know anything. If you don't, you will continue to be on the pod, and you will continue to we'll get you back in the writing groove. Blue Jays, how are they doing? I literally have not paid any attention to baseball yet.
Yeah, it's up and down. The bats come and go. Nobody's really hitting. The pitching depth has been tested early and often. Hopefully better days ahead. 12 and 11.
Vladdy signed since the last time we talked baseball.
That's true. Vladdy did sign that massive extension. He is a Blue Jay for life, and that is very exciting for a franchise that hasn't had a lifetime player like him since, I don't know, Vernon Wells, who we ended up trading away because his contract got terrible.
I mean, if Vernon Wells was truly a lifetime Blue Jay, then I think that is emblematic of how terrible the mid to late odds Blue Jays were.
Oh man, what a time, sports fans!
You see, the funny thing is, that's when I tried to get into baseball, was like the late odds teams.
The Black Jays.
Fuck, they sucked.
They were very bad.
They were so bad, and they tried to convince us every year. Oh God, who was the John McDonald?
Oh, Johnny Mac.
Oh, they tried to make him such a thing, and he fucking sucked.
Well, he just, he was a shitty back middle infielder.
Yeah, but the Toronto media, they really tried to do the fourth liner and hockey thing with him. The lovable fourth liner. But the problem is that the thing about hockey is you need 18 guys.
Yeah.
So therefore, you just gotta, being bad's kind of acceptable because that's just the way the sport works. It's not really how it's supposed to work in baseball. Anyways, Addie Scrimshaw on Twitter and Blue Sky. I don't post on Blue Sky, but I always act like I might at some future point. Scrimshaw scripted on Substack.com. I'm Scrimshaw on YouTube. At some point, I'm going to get these podcasts up on Spotify and Apple. / I will have Arfin create the feed for me to do so, because I am way, way, way too lazy to actually get this done, and way too burnt out by this campaign. Consider a paid subscription if that's something that you consider. Buy my book, Salvation of the Storm. Arfin, should people read Salvation?
Yes, they should.
Thank you. Anything else, bud, before you go?
Oh yeah, real quick. Policy Horizons Canada put out a report saying that Canada is going to be in dire straits if nothing changes in the next 15 years. No, they didn't, first of all. Policy Horizons Canada is an organization within the Privy Council office that exists to create hypothetical situations to inform policy for current governments. They are meant to take things to the extreme. Canada is not going to be a hunter-gatherer subsistence society in the next 15 years. Stop being idiots, people.
Yeah, but that's not much fun. So, okay, Legere, are you gonna drop your fucking polling or not? Like the full thing so I can put in the fucking model? Here we go. We got him. Okay, let's do these. Let's do these live, okay?
All right.
Just up on the Legere website. Okay. Atlantic, 18-point lead in the Atlantic. 16-point lead in Quebec. Everybody can shut the fuck up now. 7-point lead in Ontario. Okay, so it's actually 48-41. The article said 42, whatever. It said 49. I don't care. 9-point race. The weirdly, a lot of the Liberal strength in Saskatoon is latent. In a way that the Alberta strength is not sort of sustaining. 2-point lead for the Liberals in BC. Alberta's blown back out to a 59-27. The age stuff is the same. I don't know. NDP at 8 nationally. 7 in Ontario. This will be the last thing. How excited are you? How excited are you for the NDP leadership race? Or more importantly, how excited are you for the drinking game that I'm going to do, which is number of times CJ manages to call one of Heather McPherson and Matt Green an anti-Semite?
I can't wait for that. I cannot.
Will my liver survive if I have to take a drink every time they call one of them an anti-Semite?
I think we should just all agree to remove CJ from our socials and block them for 2 weeks during the NDP leadership race.
2 weeks?
Months?
That leadership race is going to take like a year, bro.
Ugh. It's going to be so annoying.
But dude, every fucking day, it's going to like... I have no love for Matt Green. His opinions on Sarah Jama, I think, are self-evident as to why that's true. Man, that leadership race is gonna be AIDS, bro. That leadership race is gonna be horrifyingly bad.
So what is it?
If I'm a dipper, I'm praying Ruth Ellen Bursa gets back into Parliament because maybe she could do it.
Brasso, McPherson, Green.
McPherson's fine.
What about Notley?
Do you think Rachel Notley could get more than 3% with this current party membership?
Well, maybe the current party membership doesn't exist anymore and they need to start again.
Yeah, they need to start again. You know who doesn't think they need to start again?
The current NDP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like respectfully like asking an alcohol, saying, well, you need to start drinking less. You know who doesn't agree they need to stop drinking less?
Me?
Alcoholics. Right? Like, respectfully, the NDP or not, the NDP membership will not agree, even if it's correct. Okay, thanks for doing this, buddy.
Thanks for having me.